I kind of felt like doing a tarot card reading today, and I was wondering if you might want to have your cards read? Oh, well, it looks like they wanted to tell us something. It's the Fool. Welcome, my victims of capitalism and classism. I am your host, Miss Euthanasia, and you can find me in Sacrilegious Ceremony every Thursday for the rest of the month. Despite saying I found my calling last week reviewing bad horror, I have failed to do that this week, for I have been letting my dad pick the movies I've been reviewing, as he has been a horror nerd much longer than I. And this week, he ended up picking a movie that I thoroughly loved. You know, this might even be among some of my favorite scary movies now. Speaking of, this is a Wes Craven film, released in 1991, The People Under the Stairs. I must confess that I haven't seen much of Craven's work, just The Screams and Nightmare on Elm Street, so going into this blind with only the knowledge of the title and the maker left me pleasantly shocked. We opened with this kid being read his cards by his older sister, tarot cards. It is all foreshadowing and informally introduces us to the kid who goes by Fool. You know, honestly, it was really funny going from Killer Clowns to this, because while I was watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I genuinely could not. They made it seem so difficult to create characters and build their characters that I just was completely baffled how anyone was able to do it. And so watching this, where I am just immediately like supporting and all for this kid, it was a real juxtaposition. So Fool lives with his dying mother and his siblings. They are a very poor black family and the last to live in their apartment building. Their landlords have been evicting people left and right. They are the last to go. See, the landlords want to kick all the families out of their homes so they can rent out their buildings to businesses and quote-unquote clean the streets. And this is when a grown man that Fool doesn't know comes up to him and starts explaining that it is Fool's responsibility to save his family. Let me remind you, a 12-year-old boy literally going on 13, he has to save his family. And this man, his name is Leroy. I think he's a friend of the sister's, but for some reason he's infiltrating her little brother, I don't know. To him, this means that Fool must help Leroy on a heist for gold coins that are rumored to be owned by their landlords. Then we meet the rest of our cast, the landlord couple and their daughter, Alice. Surprise, surprise, they are a rich, strongly Christian white family, and we are immediately shown the racism of the parents. Now this daughter, she is very nervous around her parents, you could just tell, super freaked out of what they might do to her at any given point. However, she has a very kind heart, and that's shown us at the beginning because the dinner she is given, she shares with the people in the walls, or at least the person in the walls. However, she is not supposed to do that. Right now, all we know of this is a hand that sticks out of the vent, and when her parents accuse her, though they were right, of feeding the person in the walls, the mother leaves the father alone with her daughter to take out his anger on her.
Remember not to bruise her face.
Bad girls burn in hell.
Now, the abuse isn't really shown in the movie, which I appreciate. We can only infer what kind of abuse is happening, but we're not really told. Either way, horrible thing to do to your child. So parting from these white supremacists, Leroy has convinced Fool to help him and his buddy Spencer. Fool is desperate to get his mother some health care and keep his family off the streets, so when he's offered a way, he takes it. And it just so happens the only way is to heist a white supremacist family for their gold coins, their gold doubloons. Fool, Leroy, and Leroy's buddy pull up in their van to their landlord's home, you know, this white family that we were just speaking of. Fool is dressed up like a Boy Scout. Mother comes out to ask him what he's doing on her property, and he offers her cookies, and when that fails, he asks if he can use the restroom. The mother very rudely dismisses him, and she rushes into her house. Defeated, Spencer, dressed up as a repairman, tries to get in. And he actually does. And while they wait for Spencer to return, Leroy tells Fool, and I don't remember the context,
maybe the president is gonna make me Secretary of Pussy.
And then we see the mom drive away, but Spencer is still inside, and he's been in there for a while now. We, the audience, have assumed that he has been killed, but Leroy assumes that he is taken off with the gold doubloons himself. After manipulating and guilt-tripping a child some more, Leroy and Fool attempt to break in. Concerned about this crime they're committing, Fool says it may not be smart because it's actually the first day of his 13th birthday, and that it might be unlucky. To which Leroy responds,
13th birthday is unlucky anyway. Too old to get tit, too young to get ass. Fuck out of the way.
huh? When they somehow manage to get in, they are attacked by the prince, who's a dog. He's the guard dog. Prince goes straight after Leroy, as he absolutely should. This guy is a creep. He's a little bit weird for manipulating a child into committing a crime with him, but, you know, whatever. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And luckily, Fool gets him off of Leroy, saying, but Fool, he's far too smart for this dog. Two things to note. One, this movie has very quotable lines, and two, this is the beginning of Fool's final girl survivor skills. Now, Fool is not a girl, but you can definitely tell he was written by the same guy who wrote Sydney. Fool is not stupid. He is very clever throughout the entire movie, and I'm absolutely here for it. Leroy leaves Fool, the 13-year-old kid, in this home and goes upstairs to explore, so Fool goes downstairs looking for Spencer. It is strange downstairs. There are weird noises and cages, and he finds him. Death by fear. Spencer is dead and actively being pulled into a cage by whatever is in it and eaten. Fool manages to run upstairs and finds Leroy's limp body with his head stuck in a vent. Leroy's alive, but he's just stupid enough to stick his head into a vent when he hears something in it. He's lucky that the only thing in those vents is a roach. And we will get to who Roach is eventually. Fool explains that Spencer is dead and the parents have returned, pulling up on the house right now. They desperately try to escape, but as hard as it was to get in, it is even harder to get out. Maybe they're trying to keep whatever is inside from getting out more than they're trying to keep outsiders from getting in. Of course, these white supremacist Americans get out their shotgun. They only find Leroy, who gets shot and killed. But they still don't realize that Fool is in the house yet. Fool, following these DIY dolls being left around the home, is led to Alice. He introduces himself like the gentleman he is and notices she is very afraid.
Don't be scared. You never seen a brother before?
Never had a brother.
No, I mean a black dude. There's black folks in this neighborhood.
Neighborhood? You know, outside.
She has never left the house before. She's never been outside. She has been held captive by her parents and brainwashed to be afraid of the outside her entire life. Think Rapunzel. She explains to him that actually no one has ever made it out. She also explains that the people in the cellar, these were boys that the parents had found in hopes of keeping as a son and then discarded to the cellar when they did something bad. Alice was the only one ever kept because she didn't see, speak, or hear any evil. Then this wailing starts coming from the walls.
Ah,
And Alice explains that it is Roach. Her dad hates him because he got out of the cellar and into the walls. Her dad, who is dressed in a gimp suit that has to be some sort of like protective armor, or else why is he wearing it to hunt? He is just shooting the walls at random with his shotgun because he is too afraid of Roach to actually go in the walls, nor can he really fit. We have a moment of hope because the cops show up. But not because anything suspicious or crazy is happening within the house, but because the van Leroy left outside was seen at another robbery. They investigate the van, and this is when the mom finds a Boy Scout costume and realizes the Boy Scout from earlier, Fool, must be inside as well. They quickly shoo the police away, and do I even have to say the police were no help. The dad, somehow out of his gimp costume, and let me say, he gets in and out of that costume very quickly and often throughout the entire movie, and that is the only thing that was truly too absurd to believe. So the dad has found out that Fool is also in the walls, and he is desperate not to let him get to Alice. And I don't know why he takes off his gimp suit to hunt Fool, and then puts it back on to hunt Roach, but then at the end he puts it back on to hunt Fool. I don't know why he's taking it off at all if he's just going around hunting people, or why he's even putting it on in the first place. But either way, he's not wearing it, and he has just almost caught Fool, who has taken a cinder block. Man, that's what his character name is called, Man. Man, or Dad, or Daddy, or Brother, as I will call him later. This man, this dude, the only white dude, he has stuck his head in Here's Johnny the Shining into a door, and Fool smashes a cinder block on his head that like pushes him down, and there are spikes from the door splintering. And if this was real, he would have got the cinder block to the head and the spikes in his throat, but that didn't happen. He just gets knocked out of the door, and he somehow manages to survive. Not only survive, but recuperate. He is back at it trying to get Fool, and just as he is about to get him, Roach pulls him into the walls and helps him escape to Alice's room. In the safety of her room, she explained that Roach cannot speak.
His tongue's cut out. Well, Mommy caught him trying to call for help one day, and Daddy had to teach him speak no evil, right?
We also find out that the dolls Alice makes are modeled after people who have been killed by her parents. A morbid hobby, but at least she has one. It's good to have hobbies. She says that she keeps them to hold the souls of those who have been killed. And then Daddy bursts in. Because, didn't you know, that is what Mom and Dad call each other, Mommy and Daddy. They call each other Mommy and Daddy. That's weird. It's weird for a child to call their parents Mommy or Daddy over the age of 13, but for two parents to say that so casually to each other, that that's all they know each other as, that's weird. But, you know, what do you expect from a weird family? Unfortunately, just as Roach is escaping into the vents, he shoots him in the leg. Now, the mom has a hold of Alice, and the dad has a hold of Fool. They're gonna clean up Leroy's dead body. The dad forces Fool to pull Leroy's dead body into the basement, and then chains him down there as well. Fool has to watch as the dad guts and carves the meat off of Leroy's bone. Not only do they feed their kills to their dog, but they also feed it to the boys in the cellar. Oh, and they also eat it too. The murders they've been doing, all those dolls Alice has created, they've just been eating them. And so maybe that explains why they're insane, because they all have mad cow disease. But whatever. Fool is definitely not as phased as he should be. He just kind of takes it all in and accepts it. And then the dad forces Fool into the cage with the rest of the bad boys. These bad boys, they all just look like members of KISS. Gene Simmons if Gene Simmons was a zombie. Alice is taken by the mom and pushed into Leroy's pool of blood, telling her she has to do her chores and clean up the blood.
You will do your chore now! Clean it up, for God's sake!
And then she is punished for getting her dress covered in blood, which her mom pushed her into and is shoved into a burning hot bath to clean herself. When I say burning, I mean there's steam coming off of it, and when she gets out, she is red. Roach is back to save Fool, and they hide in the furnace. Now, I was very concerned for Roach because he was now my favorite character, and he's been shot in the leg. And just as I was worrying that they were going to kill him off, he dies. But not before giving Fool some of those gold coins and pointing him the way back to Alice. Alice, who is now in her room, burnt and being abused by her father. Fool comes running in and punches the dad straight in the balls, and then smashes a lamp over his head, and they escape through the vents. The dad sends in Prince, the guard dog, after them, and goes back to the cellar and finds Roach's dead body in the furnace. He burns the already dead Roach in the furnace, burning all my hope for a Roach survival as well. While running from Prince, Fool decides that he is done running, actually. Why, I am not sure, because he just allows himself to be attacked by Prince. And Prince is winning because he is a dog trained to kill, and Fool is a very small 13-year-old boy. Then the dad comes back and just starts stabbing the wall with his knife, hoping he'll hit someone. And Fool was so close to escaping, and then he just gave up. I don't know why. He was just like, hey, I know we're running for our lives, but I'm done running, so I'm gonna die instead. But in some twist of fate, Daddy ends up stabbing Prince through the walls and thinks that he has actually killed Fool. This kills two birds with one stone, or should I say one dog with one knife. In other words, this allows Fool to escape Prince and trick the dad for enough time to make it to the attic. They take a bit too much time staring out the window at this city, and maybe they forgot there was a psychopathic man after them, but he is in the attic with them too. Fool remembers that there's actually a pond right below the window of the attic that he can jump into, but Alice is still too afraid of the outside, leaving her in the attic when the dad catches up with them. Fool, however, had escaped and is back in the real world, showing his grandfather the coins he got from Roach. His grandfather tells him that they are enough to pay off his mother's operation and pay rent until the year 2000. And then his grandpa warns him of the rich white family that he's been dealing with. For the people I've been calling mom and dad are actually brother and sister. She was just snatched up like the rest of the boys in the cellar.
Wait a minute, brother and sister?
Tail end of the craziest family you ever heard of. Started out as a family running a funeral home. Then they got their fingers in the real estate. Started making a lot of money taking over people's homes. All sorts of rumors about what's gone on in that place. Never proved it because the police didn't take it serious.
Cut 2. Fool calls the police, reporting child abuse at the residence of the landlord's home. Because bro is smart. He's smart. I will now be calling them brother and sister because they are not a mom and dad. The police show up, but brother and sister are on their best behavior, using all their home modifications to hide any suspicious activity, such as the kidnapped children in the basement and the dead bodies. They lie and tell the police they never even had a kid, and the police accept that, leaving Alice and all their failed sons to remain at the hands of an abusive sibling duo. But it's not as bad as we thought, because as the police were here, the brother and sister had to keep the doors open and unprotected, allowing Fool to sneak back in to save the boys and Alice. However, the siblings realize he is back in the home and are ready to kill him. But Fool perseveres and has made it back into the attic that now holds a chained up Alice. He helps her escape, and the brother has gotten back into his gimp suit, trying to find them. And after some running around in the walls and being attacked and attacking back, there is a ring at the doorbell. And it's actually Fool's sister, here to distract and complain about her eviction.
My name is Ruby Williams, and I represent the Association of People who have been unjustly evicted, exploited, and generally fucked over.
Get off my property!
Just want to finish saying our piece.
You stolen the tooling from our community for your own sick needs.
There's no community here. All I see are a couple of...
Hey, Ruby, she's right here.
The white woman, because actually I'm just gonna call her that now because I don't know what else to call her. And the white woman, she's now completely insane, and she's decided she's gonna actually pull out her gun and kill both Fool's sister and his grandpa. But just as she's about to shoot them and call them both the N-word, the entire community comes from the shadows and rallies around the house, exposing her to the community as the white supremacist, insane serial killer she is. But she's still an insane killer at the end of the day. The community, knowing that now, changes nothing, and she goes to shoot them all, when Alice, who was in the vents, falls from the ceiling right on top of her.
What are you gonna do? Shoot us all?
You do.
Revealing Alice, bloodied and bruised, to the rest of the community too. Fool, who is still running from a gimped up white man, because that's what I'm going to call him now, has freed the rest of the discarded boys from their cages and has found the room full of riches. The room of the gold coins.
No wonder there's no money in the ghetto.
But not just coins, full of cash and gold coins, but also a box of TNT. Very Goonies, which is what Tubi started playing after this movie ended. Alice is back in the house and she realizes the white woman isn't down anymore and is loose in the home. Also, with the house on full lockdown, the white woman has got her hands on a knife and runs around chasing Alice, her fake daughter, with the classic serial killer knife. But now, the discarded boys of the cellar are also loose in the walls that Roach used to dwell, and they're breaking through from all angles, attacking their abusive fake mother. While white woman is running away from the boys, she runs into my knife. She runs into my knife 10 times. She had it coming. No, actually, she ran into Alice's knife, and all the boys surround her and drag her to the basement. Once again, Fool has a plan. He has hidden this candelabra with coins jammed into the stick, causing coins to fall as the candle melts. This distracts the white man. He's distracted long enough for Fool to appear behind him. Fool is holding the ends of 2 wires and explains that if brother shoots him, they'll both die, because somehow these wires will cause the room full of TNT to explode. Either way, he decides he's gonna connect the wires anyway and then jumps out of the way as the entire house explodes, sending money rocketing into the sky and falling down into the neighborhood. I don't know how Fool, the boys, or Alice managed to escape the home as it was such a big explosion. I don't know how they didn't die, I don't know how they survived, but they do. I also don't know how some sort of riot didn't break out over the money that was falling from the sky. I guess the sense of community was just that strong, and all their parents must have taught them that sharing is caring. And it ends with all the people of the neighborhood, all the people of the community who have been evicted, getting the wealth. The end. I really like how the cops weren't called again after it was proven that they were no help and that actually the community solves this problem on their own, because they know the cops won't give them the justice they deserve. After watching this movie, I saw a lot of reviews on Letterboxd saying that the social commentary wasn't subtle enough and it was too blunt and absurd. The money falling from the sky back into the community was too corny. But come on, guys. It's a horror movie made by a director who makes ridiculous horror movies. And also, it was made in the 90s. You can't expect every movie to have a perfect commentary on topics like classism, racism, and abuse, especially when it's in a horror movie. I thought, though, yes, very forward with its themes, that it did a good job exploring the extreme absurd reality of classism and racism in a fun and scary way. Very similar things were said about Last Night in Soho, except about the way it represented misogyny. But I enjoyed that one too. I think they both had interesting social commentaries and were fun, scary horror films. Now, they're not going to be the product that you would get if an actual black person or woman wrote the movie, and directed it, but I like them both. Enjoy a film for what it is. And about the ending, this movie was entirely unsubtle and insane, and I think it's only fair when all the violence is ridiculous and camp, why can't they have a happy ending in a similarly ridiculous and camp way? So that was The People Under the Stairs, a movie that I really enjoyed. I wanted to read out my favorite Letterboxd reviews because I guess I have to admit it, I'm a bit of a Letterboxd nerd. Men on Film said, "You'll remember those two middle-aged white pieces of shit who were photographed pointing guns in front of their house at protesters? They 100% do this." I agree, I was thinking the same thing, bro. Kyle Johnson said, "Maybe the real people under the stairs were the friends we made along the way under the stairs." So true. And Will says, "Do the right thing and redistribute the wealth." Thank you so much for spending your Thursday evening with me. You can find me every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Daytime. And that includes the next one.
Nothing's gonna stop me now.
Though this is not a cult, we do enjoy cult classics. I am your horror hostess, Ms. Euthanasia, and this was Sacrilegious Ceremony.